Well, let's go ahead and get started tonight. Um, let's start with a word of prayer. Oh God, we thank you for the beauty of all that you have made. And we are reminded to stop and take moments to simply be in awe of all that you have blessed us with. And we pray, oh God, that you will teach us how to better care for it and for one another. Guide our discussion tonight and give us your guidance. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Good to see you all. It's been kind of an odd summer. We didn't have a call last week. I know Susan Meyer can't be here tonight. She is on vacation, so we're kind of small. But I thought this would be a good time to just kind of see where we are and what the needs are and kind of how we want to move forward. Uh, we have been talking a little bit about the climate plan each month. We've had some speakers. Just want to get some input about where we want to go with this. Bob, has it been helpful to you? Is it helpful to get together in person once a month? Well, in person, in Zoom once a
Um,
month?
yeah, I think so. We're where we're at, we're trying to slowly implement some things. We're trying to,
Good.
you know, be more conscious about recycling, trying to put more things in our newsletter as far as different tips on what people can do in their personal lives, to conserve energy and to reduce plastic use and so forth.
Good.
And then we've also been meeting, we met once with Bethel and Atonement. And I think next Tuesday, I believe, we're meeting again with them to kind of, discuss what they've done and what we're doing and kind of
Oh,
try to
good.
coordinate some of our efforts, possibly.
Excellent. Oh, that's really good. Um, yeah, they're both of those churches are really active. And did Cindy send you information about they're going to start a Saturday morning discussion group about Earth's climate crisis, the social message from the ELCA?
Um, I didn't see anything, but that doesn't
Well,
mean she
maybe
didn't
she sent
send
it
it.
to your she might have sent it to your pastor. I will
Oh,
I will send her a note.
okay,
I think they're going to start on September 14th,
okay.
and I
Well,
think
yeah,
it's going to be at Bethel.
okay.
So,
Um, yeah, I seem to recall Dee mentioning that
okay,
we're going to
good.
actually be out of town.
Okay,
But I'll mention it to some of the other members on our team to see if they
good.
would like to attend. And then I'm sure we'll talk about it next week when we meet with them anyway.
Excellent. Excellent. Oh, that's really good. Well, and there's a lot of energy in the St. Louis area. So it's you guys have done more collaboration and that's really important. So I think that's great. Um, is it helpful to have speakers on these? Are there certain topics that would be helpful?
Um, yeah, I'm not sure what topics. I mean, the topics that have been presented have been really good. I mean, some of them are probably at this point beyond our
Hmm.
not I don't want to say grasp. I don't know what the word I'm trying to look for, but it's something
Sure.
that we would want to attain to reach, but we're probably not there yet. So at this point, we're kind of taking some baby steps,
That's great.
and hopefully get some other people involved and interested, and see how
Eh,
that goes.
That's
I don't know if
good.
you know. I don't know if you know, but Pastor Janice, she retired.
Retired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so now we have we do have an interim pastor, so we're kind of geared up for looking for a new pastor.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm out
Well,
of council, so I'm kind of involved
involved
with
with
that
that.
also. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, and I give you kudos for keeping things going, even with the pastoral vacancy. That's really important. And um, anything we can do uh, through this group, we'll be glad to do that.
I
How
appreciate it.
about you, Dave? How are things going down in Arkansas?
Actually, very well. The congregation approved the solar for our roofs. So
Fabulous.
that's going to be installed within the next month. And so we sold it, as much on economics as we did on, going green. So it was, we have the fortune of having, I guess, a fairly progressive congregation just by attrition. Going back to COVID, when several people who more conservative persuasion decided they wanted to go to other pastures. So the people that are there now sort of gravitate to a new minister, Jackie Bashir, and so we've gotten things going with her. I think she's green by inclination, but she doesn't want to force things on,
Sure.
congregation as a whole. But we have, I invited her and, to get interested in a season of creation, and that is going forward. I mean, I'm not sure it's going to be, all bells and whistles. I like to have it, but we will have a season of creation through the month of September. So there'll be at least 3 sermons on and activities related to the season of creation at Faith Lutheran. And so I think, for given my worries, going into the congregational vote, that something was going to blow off, but it did. It went pretty smoothly, which was a real blessing.
Well,
So,
congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. That is
yeah.
wonderful.
Again, I think it's sometimes I think, people would call it luck. I don't call it luck. I just, the providence of God, put several things together that made it work. The 3 of us that spearheaded it, 2 of us already had put solar in, and I, having my solar start installed tomorrow. So, and I had long been an advocate for solar, but I just, money, I just finally got it together. And the other thing that kicked it in too was they were changing the rate structure here in Arkansas. They were going away from, I guess, which we call net metering, where equal amount coming in and going out in terms of energy, produced and versus consumed. And that deadline is September 30th. So I think that was sort of an incentive to sort of push the vote fairly fast and to get what we wanted. And so, I think the harder thing to do now is to look at the global picture, to go beyond just, it's nice to put solar on the roof and it saves us money, that kind of stuff, and start realizing that this has to be a committed mission over a long period of time, and at a larger scale. And as a part of that, I've collected a bunch of authors on everything from theology and related to creation, understand creation, native spirituality, and things very specific to climate change, which is a couple of which are sort of scary, but I decided, since nobody really knows the future, I just picked a couple very good novels, which they're a little bit hard to read, but they're good novels. For example, the one that I think some of you might have heard it's called The Ministry of the Future.
Oh, I read that in my book club.
Okay.
It is great. It is great.
But the first chapter, you got to get past the first chapter because it's a little bit scary.
Sobering. It's sobering. Yeah, it's very sobering. Would you be willing to share a list of those books that you?
Yes, in fact,
collected?
I've pretty well finished it, and I'll be happy. And it's all hot links, so you can send it out with the hot links and click through.
Yeah, but if
on the theology side, I'm really into John Philip Newell and the Universal Christ, Richard Rohr is another good example. With the Franciscan sort of side to it, and there's some other stuff that and the native stuff. So I went back and reread Black Elk Speaks, and I don't know if that's a classic going back. It was very popular with hippies, I being one of those back in the 60s, and and just a native spirituality in general. So I found about 4 books in each of about 5 categories.
Oh,
Corresponding to
yeah.
5 weeks that were sort of working with us. And
I would love to get that list and share that with others. That would be
not a
great.
problem.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to finish. I'm actually still trying to finish a couple of books because some were recommendations by one of the ones, Sweetgrass, which is
Oh, Braiding Sweetgrass by
Braiding,
Robin.
Braiding Sweetgrass. That's on one of them.
One of my favorite ever. I love
Yeah.
that book.
Just-
Love that book.
My feeling is, I guess this is my philosophy, it's hard enough. I mean, it's just like the election in general, it's hard to scare people into changing their ways. I mean, they reject, the warnings, they reject a lot of things. I think you need people to really re-engage with their connection to nature, and then
Yes.
from that will hopefully, I'm not afraid. I mean, like I say, I have a whole section that's on, climate change. It's just scary enough, but the rest of it really relates to connecting with nature and trying to, elevate our spiritual.
Right. Well, it's about
Very-
relationships with each other and with the created world. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
You will not say what you cannot say what you do not love, or somebody said that. It's a
Yeah.
great quote. Yeah.
If you know
Yeah.
where that
So-
quote is, hey, I'll take it.
Okay, I'll see if I can find it.
So I
Okay.
wanted to mention
Google
two
that probably.
things. Can you hear me? I wanted
Yes,
to mention
thanks,
two
Lisa.
things. So the ELCA has been running a series of webinars on Indigenous spirituality. If you have not been aware of those,
Oh, when is it?
I think the last one was last week or the week before.
Oh.
I'll have to go dig through my emails and find the link. It's a special program that they've been running. It's a series of webinars on the topic.
Ooh.
I don't remember what's coming up next. The first 2 are already over. Maybe there's recordings somewhere. I'm not sure. I didn't sign up for them because I knew I didn't have time. And it's not that I don't care about Indigenous spirituality. I do have some interest, but my time is limited and I knew I didn't have time for it. So I will see if I can find those
Oh, yeah.
materials and send you the link. That's the first thing.
Thank you.
The second thing, for those who are interested, for the first time ever, the Center for Spirituality and Nature is offering a spirituality and nature leader training specifically for Christians. I have attended their general training in the past because at least Noni's aware. I don't know if the rest of you are aware. I do lead spirituality and nature outings at least 4 times a year, usually twice in the fall and twice in the spring, because in Texas, you have to be a crazy person to lead outdoor activities in the summer. And Texans actually think it's cold in the winter. I'd be willing to go, but other people won't show up. So I do them in the fall and in the spring. And for the first time, to my knowledge, they are actually partnering with Creation Justice Ministries to offer a specifically Christian training for people to lead spirituality and nature activities. And David, when you're talking about people getting back in touch with nature, I think this is an excellent way to do it. I've gotten very good response. I remember one time I ran one on the Saturday before Easter, and one of the guys who attended said to me afterward, "This is just as good as Easter Sunday worship, but different."
Wow.
Yeah.
Run that
I-
past it again. I
really-
don't know if I entirely followed you, partly because it get distracted so easily. So my apologies. So this is sort of a study, a workshop, or what do you work study?
It's a training. It's an online training so that you can learn how to lead spirituality and nature outings for other Christians.
I'll look up the link and put that with the recording.
Well, the link for the spirituality and nature thing, I can post it in the chat right now because it's coming up on
Perfect.
September 14th. The one for the Indigenous spirituality webinar series from the ELCA, that's already over. So I'm going to have to go back through my
See
old
if there's any
emails, find the link, and then there might be recordings. I know it's a whole series, so there's more of them coming up. I don't remember when the next one is, but that I'll have to dig for because it's not upcoming. But I'll go look up the link right now for the spirituality and nature leader training
Thank
that
you.
is specifically Christian. Because I thought, wow, I wish they had offered that back when I took the training. Because when I took the training, it was just generic. It wasn't even interfaith. It was just because, you know, there are people who lead these kind of outings who are completely agnostic, right? But I don't know that I'm going to redo the training for the Christian version. It seems a bit much, you know.
I'd love to do
Since
it,
I've
but
already done the other one.
I can't do it on the 14th. Do you have to do it live?
They probably recorded. Let me see if it says.
Okay.
Uh,
Bummer.
You know, it doesn't say.
I could contact him and find out.
But you know, if you click further into the registration, it'll
Sure.
say, I'm just on the main page where it talks about it. So I'll post that link in the chat, and I
Thank
will have
you.
to go look up the one on Indigenous spirituality because it's not coming up. It was either last
Okay.
week or the week before or
Sure.
something.
Sure.
So
Ooh, thank you. Thank you.
yeah, so there's the one on the
here.
spirituality and nature group leader training. So out of that, you can be in a position to lead people in spirituality and nature, outdoor activities, and natural settings.
Oh, I've gone to, oh, that looks good. I've gone to some of their online things. I haven't done any trainings, but they very, very good programming.
Yeah, I've attended some of their online programming as well, but I did their training first because I had already been doing these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw they were offering training, and I was like, gee, I've been doing this on my own. Let me see what I can learn by going to their training. So especially if it's not something you've ever done, I think it could really help make you much more comfortable in leading these kind of activities. And if anyone wants any resources from me that I have successfully used for these activities, just let me know. I have a couple of different resources that I have used successfully in the past that I'm more than happy to share. I haven't decided if I'm going to look for a new resource for this fall or if I'm going to use one from the past. I won't be doing the outings until October or November, so I have time to think it over. But I've got a collection of resources that people could consider using for these kind of spirituality and nature outings. And the resources I have are all specifically Christian. I do not do these activities generally for an interfaith audience. I tried one once and it just didn't work. So I decided to stick to specifically Christian spirituality and nature. So I have resources I can share, but to make you comfortable, I would suggest taking the training. It's pretty good.
Lisa, do you have we have a camp out for our congregation, and we want to do a morning kind of a outdoor worship, but very more spiritual than a formal worship service. Do you have something that would be good for that?
Well, you know, one that I like that's been really well received is a guided prayer walk. So you go on a walk through different environments, through the woods, by a body of water, next to wildflowers, you know, next to, you know, some large mature tree, you know, so there's different stopping points on the walk with accompanying Bible verses and prayers. And what I add to that is I add time for people to discuss their reaction to the verse, to the prayer, to the natural world around them. Because when I first did that, when I did the very first one, I did not include time for discussion. And at the end of all these things, I always ask people for feedback. How can I make it better, right? And they said, it would have been better if we had had time to share.
At each of the stops?
At each of the stops. And it's 12 stops total. It usually takes about an hour and a half. Now, it depends on the size of your group. Because if you have sharing time and you've got 25 people, that takes longer than sharing time with 10 people. Now, I generally limit the number to 12 people because otherwise it's, you know, you're trying to follow the leader through the woods and by the pond, and, you know, it just gets to be a little too much. So if you have more people, you would probably want to have 2 groups and you would have to change the order, right? So that somebody's by the pond while the other group's in the woods or whatever. Because the steps don't have to be done in order. You can do them in any sequence you would like. And and I have changed them when it suited me, right? But I think that one's really nice. Now, would I call it worship? Not exactly, but it does involve Bible readings and prayers. Now, there's no hymn singing, there's no other liturgical elements, and a time of sharing that gives people an opportunity to talk about what the prayers and the Bible verses and the natural world around them mean to them. So I really like that. Now, if you want an actual worship service, do I have liturgic materials? Yes, I do, that focus on creation, absolutely, positively, that I can send to you. But if you want something less formal, that's more suited to kind of a camp environment, I really love the guided prayer walk. I've used it, and it's been, in fact, that was the one where the guy said, this is as good as Easter Sunday worship, except different.
Well, and it expands our understanding of what worship is. You don't have to be in a sanctuary with a liturgy it's a different kind of liturgy. The prayer walk is a liturgy in itself. So.
But if you tell me what sort of things you're looking for, I can also pull some liturgies and send them to you. I have a really beautiful full liturgy, which I'd have to dig up because it's a paper copy and I'm not sure where I put it. That's absolutely gorgeous in its creation focus, but it is a full liturgy that I have done, in a sanctuary, in a church. It might not be the best option for
a camp
setting,
brief.
But I do have some other ones that are shorter.
Yeah.
I also have some litanies that are designed to be done in an outdoor environment if you want something like that.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends. So why don't you think about what sort of thing you might like, and I'll dig through my resources and I'll see what I can send you. Because I have a ton of stuff.
Yeah. Our season of creation is somewhat formed now at this point, and a minister is one to sort of, still take charge of that. So I was hoping I'd have more freedom and, input into, but that prayer work, for example, sounds really good. And they were looking at for activities that, that would, be outside the sanctuary. One of the things that, came up was, the idea of having come on, pollinated garden. And, the only problem is we have very limited space. We're urban church, and so we're almost all parking lot. So it's a little tricky to.
Do you have a strip of land on the side of your parking lot? I'm in an urban congregation as well.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You could turn the little strip into a small pollinator garden.
Yeah, I think that one of my friends, Nia, is looking at that idea. Each of us is doing different parts of this season's creation, and Nia is in charge of some sort of project. I have to talk to her exactly what that entails, but they're talking about possibly a pollinator garden or something like that. I sort of like the idea of the prayer walk or something, because to me, I mean.
Do you have a nice natural area that's not far from your church? Because I do it in one of the larger city parks here in Houston, because you do need, it is designed to be in a place where you can encounter some different elements of the natural world, of a wooded area, a body of water, large trees, flowers, things like that. So it is designed where you can encounter different types of maybe micro ecosystems. So I hold it in a large city park because, well, it's hard. That's the kind of place where you can find a woods and a pond.
There's sort of an interesting park called Burns Park here, and it's got doubly interesting because, I discovered a intermittent falls there, which is just sort of being ignored by the city, and but it's a lovely little intermittent falls that falls down. There's an overhead bluff. It's a big rock. I used to call it the Big Rock Quarry because there's a quarry and it's all gone back to nature. And there's a nice little intermittent falls that comes down there. It's really pretty. But part of the park, which was just it was so many trees got directly hit by the tornado that came through. Just and I know it's destroyed literally 10,000 trees. Or something in that order. That's what they said was the result of it. But yeah, there's so many parts of it that are vibrant and are coming back too. And so
Mhm.
part of the prayer walk could be, rebirth,
Yeah.
things like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
As where do you put your values? I mean, I got a little upset when they converted the quarry, which was sort of a natural amphitheater where the quarry was, and a bunch of pine had grown up to about 30 feet. And it was just lovely. And I thought, we have the Quapaw Indians around here that they had like, a council circle out in the middle of that. But the city decided, they were going to turn it into, the open area underneath the cliffs and to, what do they call these things? It's sort of a skateboard kind of park. And
Oh.
I know, I hate just like, ah.
So I just checked the prayer walk and I'm misremembering it. It's actually a verse followed by reflection questions so that people can engage in a time of private individual prayer. And then what I added to that based on the reflection questions was discussion and reaction. So there are no stipulated prayers. And as part of this, what I combine it with is prayer with eyes wide open. So before I begin the prayer walk, I teach people that there are actually two forms of prayer. We could get into the technical terms, but there's the kind where you're attempting to focus more inwardly. So you close your eyes, you try to block out distractions. And that type of prayer is very good, especially for self-examination and confession of your sins and all that stuff. But the second type of prayer requires you to engage with the world around you and let it enter into your prayers.
Yeah.
So I teach people how to do prayer with eyes wide open. And I teach that spiritual discipline before we start the walk so that people can engage in that prayer during the reflection time. And I actually also lead an opening and closing prayer for the event that I've written, but of course you can write your own. And during that time, I ask everyone to please pray with their eyes wide open.
Yeah.
To be part of all creation praising God and to be recognizing the glory of God all around them. Closing your eyes off to the glory of God is really not a good practice. Unless you want to do introspection and confession, in which case close your eyes, concentrate, block out all your distractions. So I add that to it because I think it's really important for people, particularly in the Western Church, because the Eastern Church has not lost this. They still do.
Yeah.
They still do prayer with eyes wide open. But the Western Church has completely lost it, completely.
Mhm.
And I think it's an enormous loss.
Yeah.
So I really work hard to bring it back because, like I said, why would you want to block out the glory of God while you're praying?
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? So I add that to it. So I kind of juice it up a little bit. But of course, you can decide to do it however you want, right?
Sure. Okay. Oh, and Dave, when you talk about pollinator gardens, we had a church in Blue Springs, Missouri, and they did a pollinator garden, and they actually had cocoons for monarch butterflies in their sanctuary so that they could watch them as they developed, and then they released them into their pollinator garden. And if you want any information on that, the woman who was in charge of it kind of wrote up a piece, so I could send that to you if you want that.
No, I'll pass it on to Nia because she's sort of like in charge of. Of course, I'm thinking myself an environmentalist, and I'm just thinking when those cocoons hatch, that's got to be springtime, right? I mean, doesn't it?
I don't know. They had them this summer. I don't know how
I
they
think
timed them.
it depends where you live, because here in Texas there are 2 fly-throughs of monarchs, and some hatch May, June, and then there's some in the fall. So it depends. It depends. At least in Texas, it's twice a year. I can't speak to other parts of the country.
Yeah, I don't know how they timed them. But she sent me some information if that would be helpful.
Oh, well, go ahead.
But it was a really cool way to engage people.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and it's all ages. Everybody.
I've been in a couple of butterfly houses, but I don't know how they they keep those going constantly. I mean, of course, one was way up in northern Michigan.
Yeah, I think it's so fun to hear different ideas from different places. I mean, we're not going to all do everything, but it can be as big as solar panels, or it might be as small as um, uh, doing butterflies in your sanctuary. I mean, it's just there's
Yeah,
so
yeah, I
many
really, yeah, this whole thing of, and we have our church which very fortunately we have a creation window, which I call, is, decide not to have the dark chaotic colors, where the winds were swirling it. We have a window of light with an oak
Ooh,
tree growing outside, which is,
ooh,
so it's a combination of very, it's a light of the world window. Uh,
cool.
I call it Morning Star window, and
Uh-huh.
I'm proud to say that was part of that too. But and and it's got a lot of looks from people and stuff. But I really want to use it, because it has all the colors of the rainbow in it. Plus, at the bottom it has a stream sort of flowing to outside around the altar, and then partially up you have all the green, and you see the rays, and then you see the Alpha Omega image of Christ above, with the rays coming
Is it a
to
stained glass window or is it a
it's stained glass, but I push for getting antique glass to have a lot of. So the upper part, particularly the lower part, we had traffic, so we wanted street traffic. So we sort of that's where you have the earth, right? The watercolors and of a stream coming out and a forest, and then the
can you
upper
send a
it's
picture? Can you
colors.
send a picture of it?
Yeah, yeah. I'll happily
That'd be
I'll send that
great.
with you when I send you the
The book, the list, the list
you
of
can give it
books.
to anybody, or I just put it up
I'll
here.
post it with this. I think it's great. Plus, we are also working on our 2025 creation care plan. So we need new ideas. So these things are all really good. I I'm always getting ideas from other people to share because Bob, like Bob, you try a few things, you try this, you try that, and I just think the more we have to choose from and the more that we can engage people and, oh, this will work in our congregation, or oh, this might work. I think that's really helpful. And that's why I like these kinds of conversations, because I always get lots of really good ideas. Our congregation is we're not doing a whole lot, but we're trying a little bit here and there. So you know, don't get discouraged, anybody. We all can't jump into solar panels, but we're going to do a camp out and we'll see if that works. So, oh, here's the link.
FYI, I posted the link to the
Okay.
Indigenous webinar series, and there
Okay.
it says here some of the events have been recorded, so you
Okay.
can go to YouTube and see some of them.
Okay.
And let's see, when is the next one? It says upcoming. It doesn't have a date. Okay, July. Oh, there's a film screening on the 20th of August. But that's not so much on spirituality. That's on civil rights for Indigenous peoples. The spirituality one was the July one.
Okay.
So maybe there's a recording of it. And then they've got a whole long list of stuff. And
Oh,
then
I'll
there's
post. Okay.
they're redoing the Indigenous Thought and Theology in October. So it looks like
Okay.
they're repeating the series. So if you miss one, you can probably catch it in the
Excellent.
fall.
Okay. I'll post that link when we post the video. That's yeah. That's good. Gosh, I've got lots of good ideas tonight. Thank you all.
Hey, Lisa.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
I have mentioned a couple of books, one of which is a classic, and it's really, spirituality more than it is nature, though it has a lot of that in it. Black Elk Speaks, which goes way back. But I was trying to, with a friend, we went to, Braiding Sweetgrass is another good one. But was there something else that might be a little bit more, I don't know, focusing on the creator, in terms of or the Great Spirit or something like that would really more connect with finding a new expression of Christianity, and looking at the creator. as opposed to, focus.
I saw something like that. Now, where did I see it? I don't think it was the ELCA program. Well, actually, no, that ELCA, Indigenous Thought and Theology, does focus on Creator and Mother Earth. So that recording might be helpful. But I seem to recall that there was some other denomination that did a program.
Well,
I'm
the
not
Episcopal
sure.
Church, I know, does a lot with John Philip Newell, and he has some really beautiful stuff. But I'm really wanting to look at next Celtic tradition, which is parallel to Native in some ways. If you go to the ancient Celtic traditions, Celtic Christianity,
I
and
have a book, and I'm not
connect
sure
to the
where
earth.
it is. Yeah, I think it's called Fountain of Light, and it's Native American. I can't put my hands
Fountain of
on it
Light.
right now, but I'll look
Pretty sure
for
that's
it.
the name of it. I mean, I can Google that easy enough.
I'm not sure, but I can make a note to look for that. It's on my shelf somewhere. It's just my shelves aren't very organized.
I find this often just to Google it, usually come up with it fairly quickly if you got the name half right. Native American Fountain of Light, on Amazon, something like that. Might bring it up.
I don't know that doesn't look right.
Yeah, I don't know of any books specifically on the indigenous thought around the Creator. Nothing comes to mind. That recent webinar by the ELCA did look at indigenous theology and the concept of the Creator and the Mother Earth. And I thought there was some other webinar from some other denomination that was similar, but that one, that's like a vague memory. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's a resource on environmental justice with Indigenous peoples from Creation Justice Ministries, but that's not what you're talking about.
This one it's called Ladder to the Light. It's an Indigenous Elders Meditations on Hope and Courage. So I think everything they do is interconnected with nature and ecology. So
Ladder to what did you say?
it's called Ladder to the Light by Stephen Charleston. It's really a beautiful book. I've used some of the quotes in here because it's very profound.
I came up with one that was recommendation of a friend, but I don't know. Even though it's written by a Native American, it's called Native American Spirituality for a Modern World. And the title of the book is called Think Indigenous. And it's like Doug Goodfeather.
So you might want to check out, there's actually a reading list at that ELCA website.
Okay, yeah.
With a bunch of different books. I'm not familiar with any of them, but they have 104 different books listed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's under general
I'm sure there's
fiction.
something.
Then there's poetry. Then there's traditional stories. There's picture books for kids. I mean, they have a ginormous potential reading list linked to that website.
Here's another one that I have. I haven't read it yet, but I just got it. It's called On Indigenuity, Learning the Lessons of Mother Earth by Daniel Wildcat.
So apparently the thing that's upcoming, if you go to the website, is a reading circle on the book Custer Died for Your Sins, an Indian Manifesto. And there's an accompanying discussion guide.
And that's on that website?
Yep, it's near the top after the links to the recordings and stuff like that, because it's under upcoming events, but it doesn't give the date, so I'm not clear on when it's upcoming.
Okay.
But it looks like the website, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's truly still upcoming, Sometimes if they don't update the website as frequently as they should, but it does list it as upcoming, and that's the particular book they're going to discuss. I know nothing about that book.
Hey, Noni, I'm sorry. I had my pad mislaid and it's getting dark in here and I couldn't see what I was looking for. What was that last book you mentioned? Just
On indigenuity. That's GENUITY, colon, learning the lessons of Mother Earth.
yeah, that's not. I mean, did you
Yeah,
do this without addition to
by
it?
Daniel Wildcat. I heard him interviewed, and it was fascinating. So
And that's Daniel. What did you say?
Wildcat,
Wild Tap. You just
Wildcat, like
Wild Cat. Okay.
yeah, he's a Native American. I
Yeah,
think he
that
teaches
would.
at Haskell
Yeah,
Indian University, not far from here.
that one sounds interesting. I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that might hit on what you're looking for. So, oh, there's just so many things to read, so many things to
Yeah, I
see.
know. Too much to read.
Well, that's good. That's why
So
not
Lisa,
everybody
You
here is
kind of have to
retired,
pick
but
and choose, which is why I decided I couldn't concentrate on
yeah,
the indigenous theology. I just,
you've
no
got,
bandwidth.
well, Lisa, I don't know how you get everything done that you get done. So it's pretty amazing.
I'm hyper organized. No need is the only way.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
so that Custer Died for Your Sins, Lisa was saying that they're focusing on doing that in November. So I'm assuming it.
Oh, okay,
this
so that's November. Well, then you
Yeah.
have plenty of time to read the book.
Well, that's what I think. I think that's what it said. It said, read, start reading now.
Start reading now, and then you'll
Yeah.
be ready. Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to check that one out
I
too.
have to admit, I don't like go to this web link at the ELCA frequently. I just happened to see in one of their newsletters that there was a thing on indigenous thought and theology, and I was like, oh, well, that's very ecologically minded. I should let people know about that. So I publicized it to my synod, stuff like that. Because a lot of
Yeah.
stuff comes from the ELCA, and it's hard for people to stay on top of all of it. So I try to keep an eye out for stuff
Yeah.
that's ecologically focused and make sure
Thank
it gets some
you. Yeah.
publicity,
That's really good. That's really good. Another thing we're doing in our synod is just kind of a more intentional but not formal partnership with our congregations that are doing creation care and linking it with Lutherans Restoring Creation and our plans. So I just put out a newsletter. We're going to do a brief newsletter, and so I can use some of these ideas. And it's just a way to help, again, connect congregations, give people ideas, and hopefully continue to grow the ministry in the synod. So we just try lots of different things. I just think anytime we connect with each other, it just strengthens all of us. So
We'll also have a blessing of the animal at the end of the season's creation because
oh yeah, we've
we
got
used to
one.
have that too. I'm used to
Yeah.
that's pretty standard. But
So that's really good. That's really good. We also have coming up in December. Well, we passed a resolution about peace, and not only for humans, but the environmental impacts of war. So we are trying to put together some resources for congregations on that. So I can send some of those
And
things
I'd
out.
like to see that, Noni, because I have never, ever looked into that. Now, is it clear that war is enormously destructive to the environment? Well, when you bomb stuff, it is pretty destructive. But I have never actually looked for resources on that topic. So if you find some interesting things, I would love to have them.
I've got a couple articles, and so we're and just you can see the destruction, but also landmines and the pollution it causes and what it does to the water system, all of those things. So I can send that to you. We have some information about the billion-person peace pledge. There's a woman who's trying to get people to work for peace, and just ideas that people can raise it. Like we did a peace crane project after 9/11 when I was on the campus, and it was a way to engage everybody. Everybody could make peace cranes, and we hung them in the student union and had prayers for peace and those kinds of things. So we're going to be sending out some information about that so we can share it with this group too. Because this is nice because we get ideas from other synods as well, which is great, really great.
One of the things I remember from the Iraq War was when they blew up all those wells. I mean, plus the whole landscape and whole sky went dark with the very acid rain, which was totally destructive in its own right. Yeah, people don't realize what the costs are. They really don't.
Yeah. And I mean, it's horrible human cost, horrible. But the ecosystem degradation and all that goes with it. So I'll post that article too. So that's great. The other thing too is we can have people who are working on some of these things present at some of these if there are specific topics that are of real interest. We can always get lots. We have so many good presenter people, so many ideas. So if there's anything,
Melanie, you kind of asked people, why they're participating and stuff. Honestly, I participate so that I can try to help people out because I have a gazillion resources. Since I've been in this ministry space for decades, I'm pretty old. I have so many resources. So I really try to attend so that I can make resources available to people, because why should we all have to work so hard?
Yeah.
Right? If somebody else has a resource, let's just share it.
Let's share it.
And if you're going to go investigate the environmental impacts of war, which I have never investigated, it just hasn't occurred to me, you can share those resources and then I will have them. So that's actually the main reason I attend, is so that I can share resources. And then sometimes you come up with things that I've never seen before and then I add them to my resource list, right? And other people may come up with things that I haven't heard of before. So for me, that's the key driver, is the sharing of resources and ideas, because why should we all have to do this alone?
Well, and Lisa, I cannot thank you enough. I mean, you are just a fountain of information and ideas, and
I have a ginormous database of information.
Well, and that inside here, I mean, you just have. So I appreciate everybody here, and that includes those who can't be here tonight, brings such an important perspective, and it thrills me every time we meet. And so I'm really glad that people want to continue with it, and that even if we're a small group, I think it's really, really important to keep doing this and invite others if they want to come. I'm going to try to get other congregations to come, especially if they're kind of getting started and or have kind of hit a wall and aren't doing anything. It's very encouraging to come here and hear from other people and get ideas and know that there are others doing this work. And so the more we can build those connections, I think the stronger we can be in all different parts of the ELCA. So that's why it's fun to have other synods represented too. I think that's a really great part of this. So I'm so glad you guys want to continue, and I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that we can continue to share ideas. It's really good.
I got one other potential source you might consider if you're looking at the impacts of war and the whole national security thing. So it's surprising where things came from. The first major warning to LBJ about climate change came from the Defense Department back in 1965 or something. But more to your point and what you're talking now, all these, what they call the pit fires, there was a big report on that regarding the plastics that were burned and all that, and how they affected soldiers and, all these other things. There are probably studies that have been done, I don't know how many of them are public, but, I imagine a good portion of them you could probably get access to.
Well, if you look at
Google that.
Well, because if you burn plastics, they release dioxins, and dioxins are toxic, right? So burning of plastics is a really bad idea, unless it's filmed in Unless it's done in a controlled environment where the toxins can be scrubbed out and removed and, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But like burning plastics in a pit would be like a seriously dangerous thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Supposedly that's where, was Biden's son, was he affected that way? He had cancer, but they didn't, I don't know
Oh,
if
was that affected by I don't know, the burning pits? I'm not sure.
for some reason, it
Yeah,
just came to mind.
I don't recall, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Good.
burning plastics outside of a controlled industrial environment designed to do that would be hazardous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. Well, this is great. Yeah, season of creation is coming up.
Very
Earth-
soon.
Yeah. So and it can vary. The dates can vary.
Well, I'm
but-
really hoping that at least it is the year, because it's every 7 years, when the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation actually falls on a Sunday. I hope that we can all be praying for creation on September 1st.
Oh, I hadn't even made that connection.
Because
That's
it's only every 7 years, right? Because of the way the calendar, 7 days. So it is that year, and it won't come up again for 7 more years. The World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation is Sunday, September 1st. Let's make sure we are all praying for creation. If we don't routinely do so at Sunday services, which I hope we would every Sunday. But if we don't every Sunday, or even if we do, let's make a point of perhaps more extensive prayers for creation, because it is the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation on Sunday, September 1.
I'll put a thing in our Synod newsletter about that, because then people can share across the Synod. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even make that. That's a wonderful thing.
Believe me, I went and checked, because I have done World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation observances in the past. One year I worked with a local order of Catholic nuns who held a special prayer service at they call it chapel, but I have to tell you, it looks more like a cathedral, okay? The Catholics, right? And it was lovely, but it wasn't a Sunday worship service, because the September 1st didn't fall on a Sunday. It was like a Saturday or whatever. So it's really nice that once every 7 years, when it falls on a Sunday, that you can observe it in your regular worship.
That's great. And isn't there a prayer? There
I
is.
think the season of creation
Has a
let me see if I downloaded their resource for this year, because I usually do. Give me a second. Let me just look. Because I think there usually is some kind of official prayer, but let me just see.
Because there is something cool about sharing the
I'm
same
not
prayer.
finding it, but let me just take a quick look. It may be that I didn't download the official resource, but I thought I did. But you know what? I'm probably not searching correctly, because it's probably some name like season-creation-of,
Oh,
something like
it's
that.
seasonofcreation.org.
It's
Creation.
No,
Oh.
I don't mean the website. I mean the download. The download.
Okay.
The celebration guide.
I had it there myself.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've downloaded. It's the EN_celebration guide
English.
_ Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Something like that, yeah.
So let me go find it. EN_celebration. I can take a quick look and see if there's Why is it not finding it? I was positive.
Here it is.
Okay.
World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation. Prayer. Yeah.
There usually is an official prayer. So did you find one?
Well, let's see. This is a letter from that's a letter from the Pope. Okay, that's okay.
Okay. There's an online prayer service on September 1 that they have scheduled. I'm just looking at the guide. They have an ecumenical prayer service that they have put in the appendix to the document, but it doesn't look like they have a designated prayer for the day.
Okay.
Let me just double check. Blah, 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 blah. This year they've added an advocacy component. If you would like to incorporate advocacy that's the first time they have ever done that.
That's cool.
Yeah, if you would like to incorporate that into your observance. No, it doesn't look like they specified a prayer for the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation, but they do have a prayer service liturgy in the guide.
Okay, I'll check the guide.
Yeah, so I'm just looking here, blah, blah. There's a lot of stuff in here. They talk a lot about the theme and why they chose the theme and what the biblical basis is. No, they do have a 2024 prayer, but it's just for the season of creation. So whether you decide to use it for the World Day of Prayer for Creation or some other time during the season, it's up to you. So they do, because I know they do a prayer every year, but it's their season of creation 2024 prayer. So it's not specific for the World Day of Prayer
Okay.
for the care of creation. It's for the entire season. So you could
Okay.
choose to use it for that if you wanted
Sure.
to.
Sure.
And they've got some suggestions on how to celebrate the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation. A bunch of suggestions.
Yeah. Well, and Bartholomew, he usually has something. Oh, there's some
Goodness
nice
gracious.
visuals too. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff in here, but you're right. There is an official prayer, but it's
Okay.
a prayer for the entire season. It's not a prayer specifically for September 1, but there will be an online prayer service on September 1, but it may well conflict potentially
Yeah.
with your own worship services.
Yeah.
So, because most
Yeah.
of the time, when they do these kind of global online things, at least in Texas, it winds up being at about 8 a.m. in the morning, 8 a.m.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
generally not good timing on a Sunday morning. But anyway,
No.
I put the link into seasonofcreation.org where you can download the guide that has links to tons of other resources. Plus, it has the prayer in there and tips on how to do a World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation observance and various other materials.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. Is there anything else for the good of the day? I think we could talk all night.
Well, I thought I'd tell you what I have coming up next in case you want to join. Now, Noni
Yeah.
will know because she's on my email, but not all the rest of you are not. My next program is next Sunday at 2:00 Central. I am screening a documentary called Cooked: Survival by Zip Code that is looking at class and racial disparities in the impacts in a heat wave in Chicago. So I will screen it and then we'll have discussion amongst whoever shows up afterward. That's on the 18th. And then at the end of the month, I am doing a talk that I have entitled Restoration, Renewal, Regeneration, and Justice. It's going to look at how restoration, renewal, and regeneration actually link to justice from a biblical and theological perspective, because I don't think we often link those things. And if you start delving into it, there's some significant links there. So that's my talk on the 25th for anybody who'd like to join at 6 p.m. Central. And then I'm offering my usual slew of classes right after Labor Day. Noni, I can send you have the information from my emails. You can send things out that you think people might be interested in. But my usual slew of classes. The only thing that's special this year for the lead up to the election, I am doing a faithful voter reflective discussion group where each week we're going to meet to look at a different major issue and talk about what policies, from the perspective of our faith, and this would be an interfaith group, what policies would be in accord with our faith in approaching this issue, whether it's racism or environmental destruction or immigration or voting rights. So we're going to go through a whole host of issues and discuss them each week from the perspective of each of our faiths. What does our faith say about policies that would be appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do that every year, but it's a major election year.
This is a big one, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm going to miss both the 18th and the 25th because I have conflicts, but I really want to see that.
No, you can register for the 25th and get a recording. The 18th, since that is
I
a
know.
copyrighted film, I cannot record it.
I know.
Sorry.
I know.
Can't do
I'm
that
bummed. I really want to see that. So, okay. Well, thank you all for being here. Say hi to Dee for us, Bob, and Dave. Congratulations on your solar panels. And Lisa, as
You'll have
always,
to send
thanks
us a
for all
picture
your
after you get them installed.
You bet. You bet.
Okay, will do. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye,
good to see
everybody.
you all.
Okay, have a
Bye-bye.
good evening.